Our guest today is a passionate author whose love for reading began with the Harry Potter series and Nora Roberts' romance novels, to name but a few. Her longer writing spans the fantasy romance genre, while her short stories delve into many elements: ghosts, dragons, demons, elves, time travel, and witches. Violet Lively was born and raised in Europe. Living in Hungary helps bring a unique cultural flavor to her stories. I'm excited to announce that Violet's novel Desire, Book 1 of the Soul Rune series, is now available. Go to violetlively.com for links to get your copy today. Meanwhile, stay tuned to hear an excerpt read by the author later in the show. This is the Brewing Fiction Podcast. And welcome back to the Brewing Fiction Podcast. I'm Keith. I'm joined with my co-host Heather and our special guest Violet Lively from Hungary. Welcome, ladies.
Welcome, Violet.
Thank you for having me here. Hi, guys.
It is our pleasure.
Definitely.
So again, we were just talking offline for a moment, and being from Europe, Violet, you're already at the end of your day and we're just getting ours started. So what is it, 8-hour difference again this week?
Yeah, I think so. 8 hours. We had a big time difference last week with S.R. Malone season. Yeah, so I think, Violet, you're our most distant guest so far. And
So
that's
far.
pretty cool.
Yeah, guys. It's where I live, so it's normal.
Right? That's the beauty of technology, and the thing we're doing here is we all do the same thing. We're all writers. We're in opposite sides of the world, or just about opposite sides of the world, and we can talk real time. It is truly amazing and truly fun.
Yeah, it feels like the future's here. Like, when we were kids, we saw this on TV where you could talk to someone on the phone, but it was like a video at the same time, like the Jetsons. I don't know
Yeah.
if probably, I know, Violet, you're too young for that. But
I'm
anyway,
not that young.
You
I
and I remember it, Heather.
Besides, I'm from Hungary, so time moves slower here.
but yeah, it's really cool to be able to finally meet all these writers and editors and just cool artists, people that I know across the world. It's really fun.
So amazing. And just to be able to hear a different side of someone's writing journey is so inspiring.
Yeah.
We've had some special guests already, and we continue to do so. And I think the most exciting today in talking to you, Violet, is that your first novel releases tomorrow. Is that correct?
Yes, and I'm super nervous about it.
I know you are. I
And
would be.
I feel like I need to do more. I need to do more marketing, and I have the proof copy of my novel here, and I saw typos in it, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe
Oh,
it. After so many years of editing, and I had a proofreader and all that, and then
yes,
they're still
yes. It's
still
very,
there, and
it
it's
happens.
frustrating,
It
but it is
happens.
what it is now.
And with Fiction 8, I mean, we had a whole team. We even had other editors besides us working on it, and we still had typos right before. So it
Yeah.
happens. And we're not perfect. We're
Yeah,
human.
I know, but still, I'm a I love perfection, and just it just bugs me.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I know. I totally get that. I'm like that too. It's our baby. We want it to be
Yes,
perfect when it
yes.
comes out into the world.
Right?
So before we get into all this exciting information about your new book, tell us a little bit about yourself, Violet.
Well, what can I say? I live in Hungary. I have a husband and a 2.5-year-old son, and I write fantasy stories with with a touch of romance. And yes, I don't know what else to say here. And these questions always make me feel like I'm in school or something when you have to stand up in front of the whole class and tell your
We're
name,
putting
where
you on
you
the
live,
spot,
your
right?
parents, your family, and yeah. So yeah.
Right.
Yes, 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 all of that, and it's like your whole resume. And yeah, I graduated high school, I went to law school, but things like that.
Right. So for our listeners who don't know, Violet and I met through Medium, and we began also editing together on the Kraken lore. But before she even started as an editor, we were just in love with Violet's writing. It is so
Thank you.
it is, I don't know. It's just very, very good. It's so immersive. She has wonderful characters, amazing world building, and I love fantasy anyway. So I'm all about her work. So I'm very excited about her book.
Thank you so
Um,
much.
Yeah, I've done a little bit of reading here the last couple of days, just preparing for this, and I like fantasy, but I love horror, suspense, and a couple of your stories on Medium there kind of caught my attention.
Yeah, play with me.
Play with me, yes, yeah, that was that was my kind of story.
Yeah.
so our next section is the Fast Five, and this is where we just throw things out and you just answer off the top of your head. There's no right or wrong. It's just for fun. Um, cat or dog?
Cat. Cat. Definitely
Cat.
cat.
What's your cat name?
uh, her her name is Blueberry, because she has
Oh, how
giant
cute.
black eyes, and when she was a kitty, they look like blueberries. So yeah.
No, how sweet. I love that name. Are you a plotter when you write? Are you a plotter or do you just go off the seat of your pants? Are you a pantser?
I'm somewhere in the middle. I mean, I don't have an outline on paper or anywhere. It's in my head, but I have it. I brainstorm a lot and try different scenarios for the plot and the characters and build it all in my head. Then start writing and let the story take me. And when I hit a wall, I stop and brainstorm
Yeah,
again to see where I went wrong and what should be the next step.
that's
Nice.
interesting. So you don't write down an outline. So you just, it's all here.
No, I tried. I tried so many different outlining techniques,
Mhm.
and they all just stopped the creative process for me. I had it down there, right, written down there, and it's just okay. Now what? So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I can get that for sure. And everybody has their own process.
yeah.
Go ahead.
But I felt like that I had to stick to that because it's written down, and I
Hmm.
have to follow it. And sometimes just things doesn't work out like that,
Right.
Yeah,
yeah. So it's in my
yeah,
head.
I can see that because I mean it. I've talked so many times about when you put pressure on yourself to write at a certain time or write based on, for example, you're saying your outline. If you're forcing yourself to follow what you have written down, it
Yeah.
takes away from the
Hmm. For
creativity and the
sure.
ideas that just flow,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
totally. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with you as
Yeah.
well.
So, like what I do when I was younger, I never wrote an outline, but now I do. But then when I get to a point where I feel myself shifting the narrative, I'll go back and revisit my outline and redo it. Just so because I have a
Yeah,
terrible memory and I have to write things down. So,
me too.
let's
Yeah.
stand up, you guys. Okay. All right. So the next one, do you write mostly during the day or at night?
Day, day,
Day.
definitely during the day, in the early morning hours.
Yeah, when your son's at
Yeah, me
school,
too.
you try to write
When he's
then
still
or
sleeping,
yeah.
I
Real early.
wake up at 5 or even 4 a.m. every
Wow.
morning. Yeah,
Wow.
and
That's
that's my
dedication.
writing
That's your
time.
time.
I do the 5 a.m. on the weekends, Saturday, Sunday, just specifically for writing. I don't get much time early in the morning throughout the week, but yeah, I'm with you there. I love a cup of coffee in hand and go.
That's awesome. I'm so not a morning person at all. So
Right?
I never can write really, really early like that. It's either mid-morning
Yeah.
or afternoon. And I rarely write at night because I'm just so
Yeah,
fatigued then.
nights are not good. I'm brain dead by then, and it just
Oh, yes.
no.
Yeah,
Yes.
and you have a
Yes,
two-year-old to run around after.
yes.
Gosh, I can't imagine trying to do all that and write. And my son's way beyond that
Yeah, yeah.
part. Do you like the mountains or the beach?
Whew, the mountains. Yeah,
It's a hard
yeah.
choice. It is for me too.
But yeah,
I love them both.
mountains. Just beautiful.
Mountains.
Mountains.
Um, yeah, it is. I love it. Uh,
Does Hungary have the landscape in Hungary? Do you have mountains? I picture it as mountainous, or are you more of a plains type of
Uh, no, we are surrounded by mountains, but Hungary doesn't have any, and we are landlocked.
a?
So
Right. Yeah.
yeah, we have one lake, one larger lake, and rivers. But yeah, the Alps are just in the neighborhood.
Okay.
So yeah,
Nice.
nice. Do you prefer beer or wine?
wine,
Wine, yeah.
wine.
I'm not a beer
Yeah.
person.
Right.
Um,
I've
I
graduated from beer
I
to
drink
wine.
it, but if there's wine,
Yeah, much better.
yeah,
And yeah, and yeah, and wine's healthier for
yeah.
you too.
Drink every day.
Yeah, just a little glass, right? All right, Violet. So we'll get into our big
Okay.
questions
The
now.
fun stuff.
So I know we always start with this one, but when did you start writing? Were you really young? Was it always a love for you, or was it a little later in life?
Storytelling was a love for me, but I started writing 7 years ago uh, by accident. Yes,
Really?
so as I mentioned, I loved stories as a kid, and I used to make up all these stories in my head and tell it to my parents or basically anyone who listened. But as I grew older, it was childish, no one cared anymore, so I kept them to myself. And I had this story that grew with me and kept changing and all that. And 7 years ago, I decided to share it with my husband because, you know, he had to know that he lives with a crazy person with a whole world in her head and this magic and this whole epic thing. And he just wasn't interested. And he kept telling me to write it down and I'll read it, and it bugged me because I knew he didn't care. I knew he just wanted me to shut up about it, and for days I tried, and and there are water mages and witches and fire mages and demons and this country and that country, and he was like, write it down. So I sat down and wrote the story, and that story became Desire, and the whole Story series. Yeah, yeah, yes,
Wow.
yes.
Oh, Soul Rings. Yeah, I was about to say
Yes.
it's a series now. Yeah, that's
Yes,
really
yes,
cool. So your husband was
yes,
sort of your first sounding board, so to speak.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's really nice that he did that. Is he a writer at all, or does he like to read?
He likes to read, but no, he's not a writer.
Not a writer.
Well, he
Yeah.
writes code
My
because
husband's the
he's
same
a
way.
programmer, but that's not really what we do.
So as a writer, who are some of your biggest
Oh,
influences on
that's
you as a
so hard to
writer?
answer because I don't think there is one author. So growing up in Hungary, obviously I only had access to the bestsellers from the US and the UK. So Nora Roberts was one of the first authors I fell in love with. Then Brent Weeks and Joy Abercrombie and these big names, and obviously Hungarian books that I could mention, but yeah, they are in Hungarian, so
Just
so
local
yeah.
literature. Yeah.
And I grew up with the Harry Potter series. So actually, the first Potter book is the first book I read and enjoyed. So yeah,
Nice.
yeah,
Oh, nice.
yes,
So is that
yes, yes,
where your love of fantasy
definitely.
comes from?
Yes,
That
yes,
early? fantasy reading. Yeah, that's really awesome, and it's really great. I mean, Harry Potter, say what you will about Harry Potter, good or bad, it has gotten so many
Yes.
children
Right.
to read. And the first year I started teaching was when it was really getting big, the series, and so I started to read it because at that point I had no idea about middle grades literature. I was all classic lit. I didn't know anything about middle grades, so I started reading it. I'm like, yeah, this is fun. And that really got me into a whole new genre
Yeah. Yeah.
of reading,
Yeah.
actually. Like reading for the younger kids, you know. 'Cause even when I was young, I was reading for stuff that was way older than what I should have been reading.
Yeah.
You guys are probably the same
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Um, so what was the first thing you ever published, Violet?
Uh, it was either the first part of the When the Blue Moon Rises short story or
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
Marjorie of Hotel Astoria, both on Medium. I don't remember which one. I
Mhm.
kind of published them at the same time. So yeah,
Mm.
one of those. A year ago, less than a year ago,
Less than a year ago. And look at you
less
now.
than a
Already
year
have
ago.
a book coming out.
Yeah,
Wow. That is very, very impressive. Very
thank you.
impressive. That is amazing. Um, and we'll get back to all of your medium work um, at a little bit later. Um, so Violet, I love your imagination. You have
Thank
such
you.
a vivid imagination. I love the characters you create and the world you create. And it's just, to me, it's just that quintessential fantasy. I just love it. Either it's dark fantasy or it's like kind of a whimsical fantasy, like your dragon story with the little dragon and all the
Yeah.
queens. And I loved it. And, it's just, I love that kind of whimsical type fantasy. um, how did you get into writing short fiction? I know you have this novel, but I'm only familiar with your stories that I've read on Medium. So, how did you get into writing short fiction?
Because of Medium, actually, last October, I think I picked my pen name, and my friend started publishing on Medium, and she told me that it's a great place to publish and get some visibility and all that things. And I was convinced that I can't write a short story because all my ideas turn into novels or or something longer.
Mine too.
But I gave it a try because why not? It was hard because I can't really mix romance and fantasy in a short story because then they just become so long. So I mostly write with
Yeah.
romance on Medium.
Yeah. And I know what you mean about when you want to have both, it does turn it into something very, very long.
Yeah, and word building also takes time. So yeah, to build both, that's a lot of word.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the fantasy side, you bet.
Yeah, it is. And
Yeah.
Medium is one of the best places, I think, for anybody to try to earn money on their fiction or their poetry. My best performing piece was actually a poem. For a long time it was a drabble, but then now it's been a poem, which I'm surprised that it did, I was getting
That's so
paid
cool.
for poetry on there. It's not read as much on Medium.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's a cool site, and it's a good place to get started and to get your audience built, and you can start to
Yeah.
funnel them into all the other stuff you're doing off of Medium. So, yeah, it's a good place to start.
Yeah.
We keep promoting Medium here. We're soon going to
Yeah,
have to approach
really.
them for a
Give us
sponsorship or
some
something,
funds here.
right? Well, we've all met on
Yeah,
Medium. Most of the guests that Heather has invited and those that I have
I don't know.
invited, at least
Some
the
of my older
majority
friends
are.
I met just, I don't know, randomly on Instagram or Discord but a lot, yeah.
Sure, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I've got a
Medium is a
couple of friends too. Yeah,
very
but
good
majority
community.
is Medium.
Violet, you are a young mom with a very young child, only two. And I saw on your website you have an editing business. You're just now putting your first novel out. You're publishing on Medium.
Well, badly.
How do you do all this? You have to
Badly.
work, family, and then a child. How do you juggle all of that with your
Yeah.
writing?
Yes. Well, my editing business is well, it's basically dead. I'm not looking for new clients. I only have one or two novels to work on from time to time, but it's nothing that really takes time from me. I have a part-time job that certainly takes more time than I'd like, and I and obviously my son is priority because writing will be there 10 or 20 years from
Yeah,
now. I can pick it up then, but he only grows up once. So I try to focus on him and not feel guilty that I'm not writing or editing or something. It's very hard to
right.
balance, but my
Right.
husband is very supportive. So on the weekends, the afternoons are his, so I can hide in our office and write a little.
That's good. Good. Yeah, that's good. You got to have that time, definitely, especially when you're home with them all the time. Because I stayed home with my son
Yeah,
too when he was really young, and from gosh, when he was born until he was
yeah,
8, actually. But I worked from home too.
yes, yes,
It gives you a little something else to do, you know, so you're not focused on just them
yes.
all the time. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to just be home with your child all day. That is a
It's
huge
a lot to
job.
be a mom, I
Yes,
think, too.
yes.
Yeah. Moms
Superheroes.
are
That's
amazing
what we
for
are.
sure.
But dads too. We can't do it without our dads and our
No, no,
Yes.
there's a role for each, right? But there's no one
Yes,
like a mom.
it
So,
is.
speaking of books, novels, exciting things, you're launching your new novel tomorrow. This is
Yes, it
so
is.
exciting. So, so exciting.
Yes.
So, before we really get into Desire, which is your new novel, um, just give us a brief overview. This is a part of a series, um, The Soul Runes. So, give us a brief overview of what The Soul Runes is about.
Phew.
I know that's hard.
Yeah, it's very
Very
hard. But,
question.
it's about the fall of kingdoms, about love lost and love found again. Uh, it's about the dangers of secrets and ignoring the past and past prophecies. And I have a very large cast because it's an epic fantasy stories, and most of them come from different backgrounds, different societies, and they all have to team up to defeat the antagonist of the story, and they have their own issues to deal with on a personal level. Plus, they are so different in so many ways that it's hard at the beginning for them to work together. So they have to work that out too, uh, to well, save the world. It sounds cliche, but it is what it is. Yeah.
Right. Well, and that's an easier way to say it without giving away spoilers. You don't want to give away too
Yeah.
much. But yeah, so
Yeah.
that's a great overview. Yeah,
Right.
definitely. Um, so let's see. You have Soul Rune's Beginnings When the Blue Moon Rises,
Yes.
which is on Medium. So is that a prequel?
Originally, it was an epilogue, but it is 8,000 words long, so I had to cut it from the book because, well, no one wants to read a prologue that long. Uh, but it's a great story. It's
Oh,
well, it's the backstory of the backstory, really. It's where everything started, where
right.
the prophecy from the series was born. Why was it born? Who is the enemy? Uh, they are going to face and how he died for the first time.
Okay, so
Yes.
then you have that on Medium. It's the prologue, sort of the beginning. It's sort of
Yes.
like the lore.
Yes.
Like if readers
Yes.
want to really dig into the lore of this world, it's a
Yeah.
great place to
Yeah.
start.
You're
Right,
setting.
setting the stage. So then you have Lightfire, which I noticed on your website
Yes.
is available through your newsletter, and it's a novella, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So what's this one about?
This one about Kylan and Alana, two of the main characters from Desire, uh, meeting for the first time when they are teenagers and falling in love, then parting ways.
Oh,
uh,
oh,
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, they have to. And again, originally it was part of Desire, but one of my best friends, writer friends, told me that this is not part of the book. This is not where Desire starts. And for years I resisted this advice, and I told him that yes, this is where my story starts, and I'm not going to cut it because they meet, they fell in love, and all that. And about 2 years ago, as I grew as a writer, I realized that he was right. This is not the beginning of Desire. Lightfire is a story on its own. So I cut it from Desire and published it as a novella.
that's very smart
Yeah.
though.
And
Yes,
Do it that way.
yeah, and
yes,
it's available
yes,
on your website if they subscribe to a newsletter, right? So that's any listeners out
yes,
there who want to get an introduction
yes.
to
And it's
Kaylin and
it's
Alana,
yeah,
that would
it's
be a great
more
start.
romance than epic
Yeah,
fantasy, but it has been a little bit dark too.
Hmm. Oh, I like that.
I read a small bit of it there, and uh, I've already started to have feelings for Alana. So,
Yeah,
so there you go.
thank you.
Yeah, it's a great start to the story.
Thank you.
Absolutely. You bet.
And it's really great that you had someone to give you that feedback.
Yes.
You know, sort of like a critique partner that read it and was able to tell you the truth and say this part shouldn't be in the book.
Right.
But
It's got
instead
to
of
be
just
hard to hear,
Yeah,
right? But
yeah.
yeah,
He
yeah,
had
yeah,
many
yeah,
great
totally. But you were found a way to repurpose all of that.
he had many great advices that I ignored for a long time because he's raw and direct with his advice, and there isn't much sugar coating to it, and it hurt. But at the end I realized that, oh my God, he was so right with everything he said. He was right.
But you grew and you started to realize
Yes,
more like and it's true when you do grow as a writer, you really start to focus on your narrative structure a lot more. In the beginning it's, oh, I have these amazing characters and I have this romance and I can't wait to get it out. And then as you grow, you're like, wait, you need these plot devices and you need figurative language and you need all this
yes,
different stuff to bring the story to life. And sometimes it's cutting the prologue because the story should start
yes,
where you thought maybe it was the middle
exactly.
of the story. It should start here. Yeah.
yeah,
And it's really great to have somebody on
Yeah.
the outside looking in to tell you that. Because we're very blind to our own, stories. We're in it. We're in it. It's hard to see it
yeah.
when you're right
Yes,
there in the
yes, we are
middle.
too close to tell.
It's true.
Exactly. Exactly. We can't see the forest for the trees because we're in the forest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So Desire comes out tomorrow. So this is the next
Yes,
installment in the Soul Ring series. So readers, you could go on Medium and read the When the Blue Moon Rises, which is a story, and then go to her website, which is on Medium too. Is linked there. You can get on her website, go and subscribe to her newsletter to get Lightfire. And then tomorrow, her book will be out. So first, before we know where it is, tell us about what Desire is about. So we know about Kylan and Alana. They've broken up and they've split up.
yes, yes.
So where's Desire? What's Desire about?
Well, I can read the blurb because
Yeah, read the blurb. You don't
because
have to
I
read
have it there. But yeah, a Desire is about so many things, and it's so hard to tell without spoilers. But there is love, friendship, family, sacrifice on a personal level mostly, and people struggling with life in general. They are all powerful. Uh, Mages or witches, and they don't need to learn that. They need to learn other things: how to be a leader, how to be a father, how to be a man with emotions, because that's what Kylan needs to learn: how to feel, because the soul rune is a spell that is used to suppress emotions in the men of Kylan's country, because they believe that emotions make a man weak and only
Oh,
keep them from reaching higher and achieving goals. So when he has to leave his country to spy, this is in the blurb, he leaves to well feel again. And it's very hard for him, and he meets Alana again, and she helps him through the worst of it, and yeah, they fall in love again, and there is a plot twist at the end of the book. Yes.
so I love this idea of the soul room, that it suppresses the men's
Yes.
emotions, and because it's considered a weakness. That's a great commentary on like toxic masculinity right now in
Right.
the
Yes,
world.
it
Like,
is. Actually, it is.
yeah, that's really great, and it's very, um, of the moment. Like people are very much talking about this right now. You know, what is positive masculinity and positive femininity. There's toxic femininity too,
Yeah,
and you don't
yeah.
hear about that as much, but it exists
So
too.
yeah, my main character comes from a country that is built on this idea that men don't need to feel. So the whole country is a bit dark, ruthless. They gain positions by killing each other. Even if they kill the king, they become king. So it's not, the throne isn't inherited by blood, but by power. So
Right,
yeah.
Right.
right. Well, that sounds like a very cutthroat society.
Yes, it is. It's not a nice
Very
place
excited
to
to read this
live.
one.
And I wouldn't be a woman there, because women are like down there somewhere. Uh,
Yeah, so in Kylan's world, in his society, where are women? What is their role?
they are there to give children, obviously. What else? Because they need more sons, because men are killing each other all the time, so they need more.
Right.
So yeah, more and more.
More and more. Yeah. Wow. That
This
does sound dark, but a very good foundation for a society
yes.
that needs to change. So it's, yeah, that's definitely, that's very interesting. I can't wait for that. Okay. So it comes
Yes.
out tomorrow, and you have self-published
Yes.
this book on your own. So, this is just a huge feat in and of itself. I mean, there's so much that goes into self-publishing. I mean, first you have to write the book, which can take over a year, maybe two, and then you do the edits and the rewrites and everything, and then you start the publishing part. So, what services
Uh,
did you outsource? Like, who did you feel like, okay, this is where I need to spend my money to hire out someone. The rest I can do myself. What did you like? Where did you
uh,
put your money to hire people?
Proofreading
Uh-huh.
and art cover. And I had a freelancer design my map, because there's a map in the book.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so these are, because my English grammar sucks, and I needed a proofreader because there was no
Well, and
way.
you're writing, yeah, so your book, will it be in Hungarian and English both?
Just in English. I don't write in
Just in English.
Hungarian.
Wow.
The first draft of Desire was in Hungarian, but then I quickly switched to English because I needed feedback on it. I felt like that this is a great story, has great potential, and I didn't find a
Hmm.
Hungarian community to help me with that. And I was like, oh, I know a little English. I can totally do this. So so I
And yeah,
googled.
to read and
Wow.
writing, you would never know that English is your second language. Like,
No,
I would
no.
never
Thank
know
you.
that. Never.
So if I could just elaborate on that. So
Wow.
you wrote it
Yes,
totally Hungarian
totally
and
Hungarian.
start to finish, and your plot and everything was
Yes.
developed, and then
I needed feedback.
Translated or just rewrote?
Uh, Rewrote.
Rewrote.
Yes,
Wow.
yes,
Goodness.
yes.
Now it's not. So now you're writing it twice.
Wow.
I wrote this book many, many, many times. Uh,
Yeah.
yes, because I asked for feedback too early in my writing career, and I let others
Yeah.
influence it. And I rewrote it from another point of view, only two point of views. Then, about a year and a half or 2 years ago, I decided that this is shit and I need to write the story I want to tell. So I had like,
Yeah.
I don't know, a million words in different drafts, and I had to comb it together and edit it
Yeah.
again and again and again to
Mhm.
get the novel it is now.
Wow.
Wow. And I think that's what people don't see unless you're a writer yourself is it's like uh, you take a
Yes,
book, you
yes,
write it, and then it's going to get chopped up to hell and back and scattered all over. And then it's all sewn back together, almost like
Mm.
our little Frankenstein's
yes,
monster.
exactly.
Our that end creation is not anything like the way it started out, you know? I mean,
Yeah,
and just to think about all that yours has already been through,
yes,
you
yes,
know?
yes.
So to go back to what you said, you asked for feedback too early in your novel writing process. So when would you say, when do you think you should have gotten the feedback when you were completely done?
No, when I knew more about writing,
Oh.
because I had no
Okay.
idea how to write. I had no idea what a plot was, how to build a character, or anything like this. I was
Mm.
clueless. I had a story and I asked for feedback, and they tore it apart because yeah. And I listened to the wrong people at first, mostly those who said that, oh, it's so shiny and so pretty and all that things. And I started learning about writing, how to write better. And and I realized that the people I ignored at first were the ones that I should have listened to. So yeah.
And yeah, and it's usually the ones that give you the hardest advice to take, that you don't want to listen to. I think we're all that
Yeah,
way when it
yeah,
comes to criticism. It's
It's
hard.
hard to take
It's
it.
hard
Yeah.
to take. But when you can actually, when you get to process it and think, it's like,
yeah,
wow, it'll work, you know? So it's good to have, you've got people who are really honest with you. You know, it's like if you get a friend to read it, they're like, oh, this is so good. Okay, but what
yeah,
else? What can I fix?
yeah,
Nothing. It's
Yeah.
perfect. No, it's not. So it's good to have people,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
people who can critique and not worry about hurting your feelings.
Yeah. For
That's a
sure.
good thing. So besides the proofreading and the editing, you said
Yes.
you also source for your book cover. So we will put that company on the website. Any links that you want to share that you used in your novel writing process, anyone you hired that was great, we can share that on our website for our other readers who are coming to the website to check out this interview. Because this will be very helpful to a lot of people.
That's so cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, just because we're all here, we're all growing together and learning together. And, I love to hear if somebody has a really great artist they like to use or a great editor that, doesn't charge a fortune or whatever, it's nice to have these resources,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Keith,
For
we could
sure it is.
maybe start a resource page for
Yeah.
all of these things, the art covers and
I agree.
all this stuff. That'd be really cool. Um, so when you're self-publishing, what did you what did you do yourself that you didn't really have any trouble with? You were like, okay, I can do this and not have to pay any extra money to hire someone for.
Formatting. I used
Hmm.
Microsoft Word. It was a pain. It
Hmm.
took me 2 weeks.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah, I didn't have the money to
Wow. That's a
outsource it.
software.
Source it. I didn't have the money
Yeah.
to buy any of the fancy apps that can do it for me. So I Googled how to
Hmm.
format a novel in Microsoft Word, and I did it.
Good for
Wow.
you. That is, I know
Yeah.
what feeling that is. I mean, you will literally want to pull your hair out. Ugh. It is so frustrating. It is, and it's a testament to you that how much you wanted to have it done. You learned and you did it yourself. I love that.
Budget and you are
I,
self-publishing, you have to learn, or you have to wait and save the money.
you do
But yeah,
save the
but
money, and and if you're like me, I will learn
yeah,
quicker
and
than I
if
will
you
ever
learn it,
save the money.
you don't have to outsource it the next time because you already know how to do it. So yeah, I'm not
Exactly,
going to learn cover art,
Right,
exactly.
yeah.
but but
Yeah,
formatting is
totally.
one thing I could learn.
So have you saved that format as a template now that you're just going to use, in the future?
Oh, good question. Can you save a format template?
In Microsoft Word, yeah, you can save your formatting as a template. Did you do that?
Yes, I think I did. I hope I did.
Well, that was a lot of work. You might, I don't
Yeah.
know, if you can
Yeah,
sell Microsoft templates, you could sell a novel formatting template, I'm sure,
Yeah.
because that's a lot of work, a lot of work.
yeah.
Um,
You might want to look into that, Violet. Yeah,
yeah,
maybe you can just
No,
write
I
it
have the
as a
whole
template.
document saved, so I have it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I saved it as a template.
the template, you could probably, I'm sure you could though. That'd be great if you could, because your next book, you could do it again and not have to work as hard
Yeah.
to get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Save so
kudos to
much
you
time.
for formatting yourself. That's amazing. Um, that was one thing we outsourced at Fiction8. I was like, I'm not going to format myself. No way. So you're also co-writing a
Yes.
series with a friend. So what series is this?
This series is called Touched by Spirits, and the first book is Shelter in a New World. And it has a really interesting backstory. We met, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago online at Scribophile. It's a writing community
Mhm.
for authors to receive feedback and give feedback and just build a community. And one of the groups there was focused on character building and had these role play games, exercises. And we played a few characters there. And at one point, she approached me with this new character of hers in a new world she was building. And she was like, "Do you have anyone who can play with her? It's a fantasy romance story, and I need someone." And yeah, here is Skyland. We can play with him. And we discussed the plot for that role playing exercise with her character, with my character, with Kylan from the Soul Rune series in the Soul Rune world. Uh, and I picked the moment the series didn't have a fixed end at that time. So I wasn't sure how I wanted to finish the story. So I picked one possible end, which won't be how the series ends. So we started there. I had Kylan, I had Elena, I had Tom, and she had her character. And we started playing with them, and it grew and grew. Her magic got mixed with my magic, and all that. And we added new characters, and the whole world changed. And it started 4 years ago, ended 2 years ago, and about a year ago, we were like, "Oh, Shatter was such a cool thing," and we really really enjoyed that, and we revisited the idea and decided to turn it into a novel. So because it's so different from what my novel is right now that it's so easy to just change the names
Mhm,
and a few minor things, and it's a story on its own.
mhm.
So this is the story. Yeah, Shatter.
Yeah, so it sort of started in the Soul Runes world,
Yes,
but then you were able
yes,
to sort of change it and make it
yes,
something
yes.
completely different.
Because her magic, my co-author's magic is mixed with mine, and her word is mixed with mine, so it's a totally different magic system.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
really interesting. So,
It is.
how does that work when you have a co-writer? I'm always so curious. Like when we had Double Blind on, I'm always so curious when you have a writing team. you have more than one person writing. How do you go about knowing who's going to write what or when?
Well, I think we are quite unique because it started as a character building exercise, and we only controlled our own character. So we couldn't write what the other character thought or said or anything like that. We agreed on Discord that this is the plot, this is what should happen, but short replies after each other. And then the hard part is to
Hmm.
decide where are the chapters and from whose point of view we should write it, because then we have to rewrite the other characters' parts to fit the chapter. So, yeah, yeah.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I can
Yes,
see that.
yes,
Yeah, you really have
yes.
to be communicative with your partner for sure to know who's going to do what. And yeah, that's really interesting. So, what is then this novel? Do you have a name for it yet? Is it still in the draft stages?
Shattering words. Yes,
Yes. Okay.
yes.
Okay. Yeah, that
Shattering.
was because it was you have so
Yes.
much out and it's like hard to keep up. You are so prolific.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I
Yeah.
have a dozen stories resting, sleeping, waiting.
And at
Yes.
some point, we'll have to have both of you on the show so you could talk about that book and bringing those two worlds together. That's really interesting. That's a very interesting story about how
Thank
you
you.
two got together, how you write. That's really neat.
Yeah, that would be a fantastic episode, a podcast
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear more about that
Yeah.
because
At some point.
when we talked with Double Blind, it was enlightening to hear how they still they were able to present the story as it was one writer.
Right.
Two different styles, but the style came together as one. And I'm interested to see how you two have done that
Yeah.
or will do that in yours. Yeah.
Yeah. Two minds melding. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah. And I would like to co-write.
Yeah. How far along into that story and that release are you two then?
Well, we have material for 7 books,
Oh
and
my.
we edited
Wow.
the first one and working on the second.
Yeah, this is the one you talked to me
Wow.
about on Discord.
Yes,
That's
yes,
right.
yes.
I remember now.
Yes, so and I think we can publish it this fall, probably October. I'm not sure because we are still trying to figure out all the details and everything, and we are going to publish it on Medium and Royal Road, and I don't know exactly where, but we are looking into this kind of options.
Yeah, so
That,
do you
yeah.
think you'll publish it like weekly
Wow.
chapters, a chapter or two a week?
I think
Then,
weekly chapters. So
yeah,
weekly because then we have time to edit the next book.
yeah, yeah, and then you can get some feedback too from your readers
Yeah.
Yeah.
as you go.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And then are you going to publish it as a novel at the end of, once you introduce chapter by chapter or
We like to publish it as a novel, but obviously
Mhm.
we need to save up for editing, proofreading, and after that we can
Yeah.
do it. So yeah, if we earn any money
Nice.
from readers, it's going to be spent well.
Yeah, and that's good because you have, some revenue coming in, hopefully from Medium, that you could turn around and put back into your publishing, and I'm sure you will get
I
some
hope.
patrons
I hope.
on Royal Road. I have no doubt. And I will message you. Inkit is another platform that a fantasy romance would do very well on. So I'll get with you on that too. I do
Mhm.
well on there.
Yeah, I'm a little afraid of this because it was a sort of a, well, we didn't plan ahead, so things just happened. And yeah, there are some kinky scenes in later books,
Yeah,
right. So yeah, really kinky stuff in there, not in
yeah,
the first book, but in later books, and yeah, it's a little bit weird sometimes too.
yeah. Well, that's I mean, that's a huge market right now.
Yeah, I know.
Steamy
Yeah.
romance, you know, And so there are a lot, and platforms like Inkit, Radish, they really focus on romance. And so that series you have with your friend will probably do well on these platforms and probably make some good
I
money
hope
on those.
that's what we hope.
Yeah, yeah. I'll get with you about that. Okay, so you've got so much going on. And you're about to start your marketing campaign with Desire. It's about to be out. What do you have coming up next?
The next book of the sorrow stories yeah, of Desire. Yeah, it's Despair because yeah, I had this really weird obsession when I titled the book that all the books need to be one word and start with D. So yeah,
Okay.
Nice. Nice.
yes, and the first draft of
Nice.
Despair is almost done, so I hope I can publish it early next year if everything goes well. And I
Oh,
have
wow.
short stories for Medium,
Oh,
random short stories. They just what I'm in the mood to write.
mhm.
And there is Shelter in the New World this fall, and I'm thinking about as a side project picking up my paranormal romance story, What You See in the Mirror. It's about
Oh, nice.
shapeshifters and mirror mages. So yeah,
Ooh, I
yes,
love
yes.
shapeshifters. That's
So
awesome. Wow, you have a
yes,
lot on
yes,
your plate. You have a lot
yes.
going on. But that's a good feeling, isn't
It's
it? It's
overwhelming because I don't know what to write, and this is shiny and that is shinier, but I need to focus on this because I published the first book, so I need to write the second book, and I can't start this whole new idea I have
yeah.
about dark elves.
We were just talking about that before we got started. The shiny things that keep attracting me and distracting me from the what I feel like I should be focusing on. Um, and so I'm trying to just figure out, do I follow the shiny thing or stick with the other thing?
Yeah,
So
it's
I
so
don't know.
hard.
It's
Yeah.
it's always a hard choice. Okay, so we did ask if you wanted to read from your book, an excerpt from Desire. You are more than welcome.
Yeah.
Did you have an excerpt you wanted to read today?
Yes, I have, and
Okay.
I'm going to use
All right.
my
And
actual copy to
oh,
read.
look at that gorgeous
Yeah.
cover.
Look at
Oh
that.
God, that's
Yes, it is.
beautiful. I love it.
And I am so nervous about this, but I picked the chapter. It's chapter 8 because the first chapter felt like cliche. And and yes, so it's not that long. I don't have really long chapters, so yeah, I hope you like it.
Yeah.
Take it away.
Kylan wrote his chair, his fingers knocking on the armrest. Next to his desk, the wall was covered with plans, sketches, names, dates, and maps. Some were written with a typewriter, some were handwritten. It reached up to the ceiling and down to the floor. 2 years of work and planning with his father, based on his ideas, and soon it would turn into action. But something didn't pan out. Something was missing. He could feel it in his bones. Long shadows crept up the walls, and Kylan clicked on the table lamp, directing its light to see better as the sun slowly set behind the mountains. He looked at the names on one side of the papers, mages and their leaders. Everything was in order. Kylan's gaze shifted to the other side of the wallpaper. Witches, united with the mages, but independent. Since the witches had a close community, all they had gathered were a few names from the Witches' Council. But they had no knowledge of the witch's leader. Kylan pulled a cigarette from the pack on his desk and summoned a small flame to light it. Puffing out a cloud of smoke, he returned his attention to the second part of the plan. In the middle, there was a white paper with only one word written at the top: Descendants. They were two or more people, but their identity was hidden from outsiders. That was why he had to join the Protectors, to learn their identity. He took a long puff from his cigarette, trying to ease the knot in his stomach, which always formed when he thought about going there. Something wasn't right. Something was missing from all of this, and he couldn't figure it out. One wrong move, one wrong piece of information, and 2 years of hard work would fall apart. His father would be furious, and Kylan would rather face an army of demons alone than be near his father if that happened. Blowing out another cloud of smoke, he tapped the ash from the cigarette into an ashtray. Mages, witches, descendants. The answers were somewhere among the papers. But where? Kylan furrowed his brows, and without looking, he pressed the cigarette butt into the ashtray. Who would be the next? Who was their real leader? You are looking at it too closely, a soft female voice said. Kylan took a deep breath. He hadn't heard the young woman enter his chambers, let alone walk up to him. This was how he got killed, being lost in his own thoughts. You've said that before, Delilah. The green dress she was wearing highlighted her rich brown skin, the only indication of her Ophrinian origins. Her black hair fell onto her breasts, drawing his attention from her sparkling hazel eyes. As always, she looked perfect as she glided across the room to him. Small, gentle arms slid down his chest from behind, and she kissed his neck. You seem stressed. Let me help with that. I'm good. Kylan lifted her right hand and kissed the flaming lion head tattoo on her wrist. The mark which made her his. The mark which gave her protection from any harm and promised her a good life as his concubine. It would make me happy. Kylan let go of her, and Delilah's hands slid up to his shoulders, working the knots out one by one with practiced moves. Kylan let out a shaky breath as calmness washed over him, simply enjoying the massage. He closed his eyes and forgot about his duty, his worries. In his chambers, he could breathe freely, without diving into the room and suppressing his emotions entirely. There had been a few months when his ire had been eased, when he'd been with Alana at his grandfather's mansion. He caressed his leather bracelet, hoping it would bring him peace once more, but it did nothing. The power he'd given it was gone. Why are you here? He asked softly. I didn't summon you. My library access expires tomorrow. Will you give me permission for another year? Her voice went up a little, like she wasn't quite finished. What else? May I have access to medical books beyond pregnancy and childcare? Kylan pulled away from her touch and looked at her. Why? Lila looked at the floor before looking back at him and answering. I'd like to learn. And before you say anything, she averted her eyes again. I know I'm just an earth mage and have no business around healing, but I'm interested. Kylan touched her chin with his finger, guiding her head to look into his eyes. He was aware of the training noble-born women went through, and the submission many men liked in his country, but it always evoked a different feeling in him. Are you afraid of me? No, she smiled. Of course not. Good. He turned again, pulling her hands back to his shoulders. Bring me the papers after dinner, and I'll sign them. You can have access to all the books in the library. Thank you. She worked on the knots in his shoulders once again. Do you want me to stay for sex? I'll let you know. He wanted to perfect his reports for his father and skim a few others to see the rebellion, how the rebellion was being handled. She wasn't a priority to him right now. Besides, he was perfectly aware he could have sex with her right now if he was in the mood. Delilah's experienced hands guided him to a beautiful numbness, but then the door flew open, dragging him back to reality. Kylan growled as the scent of the rainy forest underneath a strong, spicy aftershave cut his nose. I'm busy, Ethan, he said, eyes still closed. Father is on his way from Zosport. Kylan's eyes snapped open and glared at his brother. What the fuck? He waved Delilah to stop. Why wasn't I notified? The message just arrived. Kylan turned to his desk and lifted the phone's headset to his ear. When will he arrive? He pushed his finger into a small circle over a number and rotated it, then let it go and rotated another number on the device. Repeating the moves, he dialed 6 more numbers until the line went through to the servants' quarters. 20 minutes tops, Ethan said, urgency rang in his voice under the calmness. Get his dinner ready and notify his guards and the witches. He'll want to hear the reports. Kylan growled as the phone rang in his ear without anyone answering it. Answer the damn phone already. He turned back to Ethan and snapped, "Now!" Ethan nodded and jogged out of the room. Kylan turned to Delilah and opened his mouth to talk to her, but his call finally got answered. "General Whitestone," he introduced himself. "I want an automobile to the docks in 10 minutes." The servant mumbled something about it not being possible. "I don't fucking care how you do it, just do it." The small bell in the device rang as he slammed the headset in its place. He picked up another cigarette and lit it. Raking his fingers through his hair, Kylan turned to his concubine. "Let his women know he's on his way." Delilah bowed, and when he waved at her, she hurried out of the room, closing the door. Kylan slammed his fist into his desk. Fuck. Taking another puff, he flipped through his reports to his father. He wanted to go over it later to be sure it matched Ero's requirements, but it had to be enough as it was. With his cigarette between his lips, he threw his shirt on the bedroom floor. The names on his chest shone like embers in the fireplace. Steady, but threatening. The names of the men he'd killed to get his position to be the general of the mages. He wasn't even 30, but he had more power than most of the men in his country. He just had to kill for it, and had to sacrifice his soul for it. The thin leather bracelet on his right wrist felt heavier, as it always did when he thought about his soul in the motions. Just enough to know the woman he'd loved would never look at him again with those innocent, kind dark eyes like he was some kind of a hero. He wasn't. He was a special kind of monster. With one hand, Kylan pulled out his black and deep red uniform from his closet and dragged it on, thankful for the flexibility of it. The soft cotton was woven with dicker looks. The flexible metal gave the outfit a matte black shade, but also made it strong enough to replace any shield or armor they could forge. He grabbed his sword, pistol, and knives, then hurried from his room. He barked a few orders in the corridor to get everything in place by the time his father arrived, then jogged down to the first floor. Without thinking, he jumped out of an open window, shifting into a lion mid-fall. He landed on his paws and sprinted towards the dogs. People stepped away as he raced through the streets. A few humanoid demons were wandering in the shadows, waking up after a day of sleep. He jumped over a small thinker demon. The creature looked up at him with the round, saucer-like eyes. A guard demon, a tall and muscular one with a small skull and stone-hard grey skin, spun away from Kylan and shouted after him. When the elite districts gave way to the slums of the harbor, the smell of rotten food and unwashed bodies made him gag. The stench of a day-old fish didn't help to calm his stomach either. He halted at the docks and turned back into his human form. Still catching his breath and trying to keep the content of his stomach down, he watched as the large, shiny metal ship appeared in the port. Kylan pushed his shoulders down and straightened his back. He was sure his father already spotted him. Kylan stood at the end of the separated area, so the king wouldn't be in contact with the plebs. Eru stood on the bridge of the ship, his tall, strong form unmistakable. Kylan swallowed and put his hands behind his back. When the ship verted, his father walked towards him with grace and power in his moves. Kylan's gaze drifted to the spiky whip, and a cold shiver shook his body from the memories. Those small, shiny teeth tore into the flesh easily. Kylan bowed when his father stopped in front of him. "My king?" "Son?" Aaron nodded in return, then turned towards the road, ignoring the guards following a few steps behind. "How was the conference?" Kylan asked, resisting the urge to fiddle with his fingers. Aaron sighed. "As expected, we have to maintain the protection spell on the border. The president of Lawrence is a puppet in the mage's hands. Lillian Ward will not let anyone cross the border without her permission. They keep the nearest villages under surveillance. It will be hard to seek our units in." Kylan stopped next to an automobile and opened the door. Iru slid inside, stretching his legs as much as he could between his and the driver's seat. Kylan joined him, shutting the door. Iru closed the small window between them and the driver, then continued. "The king of Ophrynia is a fat alcoholic. They won't intervene if we use force to invade Lawrence. I'm close to having him agree to the marriage." Iru played with his whip, running his fingers on the steel teeth. I will succeed with Dartus, and then I will have control over the humanoids. With the demon's help, we can eliminate the Protector's leaders one by one. Kylan nodded. Dartus was a humanoid snake demon Arrow had chosen to lead his kind in the country. Another smart move from which would serve their plans well. The car shook with a steady rhythm on the cobblestone street. The enchanted interior shut out every noise from the outside. In a momentary silence, Kylan could hear his own heartbeat. Who are the first targets? Kylan asked. Lillian and Dorian warned. She is the leader of the mages and the headmistress of the institute. Her nephew should be her successor. What about the witch's leader? Arrow shook his head, annoyance flashing on his face. I don't have that information. They keep it hidden. They turned on a corner. The palace stood at the end of the street. Trees hugged the black marble walls, and the gold protective runes shone brightly in the light of the setting sun. When the car stopped, they got out, and Hero jogged up the stairs to the main entrance. Kylan followed him, only a step behind. Hero looked at him. Head to the sport as soon as you can, and prepare to leave for Aldes from there. Your grandfather will help you. Kylan cleared his throat. I'd like to stay and see through the end of this rebellion. I can defeat them. No. Hero's head rested on his whip. You leave as soon as you can. Ethan can handle the rebels. Kylan kept pushing the topic. Just give me 1 week to end it before it takes root. No. Hero's fingers twitched on his whip. Kylan took a step back and bowed, not willing to push the topic further and get punished for disobeying. I'll leave tomorrow. Find me the descendant's son. Arrow turned towards the throne room. The telepath too. Kylan nodded, wondering why Arrow didn't use Peter, Egon's butler, because the man was the most powerful telepath he knew. Was Egon really that powerful that even Arrow didn't go after those who were under his protection? Now go, get ready for tomorrow, Arrow said. Kylan bowed and turned towards the stairs, trying to get into the mindset of leaving his home and become something alien to him. A man with emotions.
Oh, I love how that ended. So, I have so many questions.
Oh my God. Okay.
I cannot wait to read this. Oh my goodness. So, the names of the people they kill are across their chest?
Yes. Yes. Those who are also
Wow. Just like
yeah,
always
they have their own names in the middle of their chest, and if they kill another marked one, their name burns into their chest too.
wow. That
It's
So that's
magical.
magical. That's not like a
Yeah.
tattoo. That's
part of the
just part
magic
of
sort of like
the
burns
story.
into that person. Wow, that is so
Ooh,
cool.
exciting.
And I had all these other questions then. I should have written them down as we were listening. But anyway, that's a good thing because you set us up so well. I'm just so ready to dive
Yeah.
in right now. I can't wait to read this. I have so many questions about this world. That Delilah woman sounds amazing. And I have to wonder about those two. How does Alana fit into that? There's just so much.
Thank you
I
so
can't wait.
much.
I am very excited about
Yeah.
the book. So thank you so much, Violet, for being on the show and from, working with your very busy
No,
schedule.
yeah. I thank you for having me here. It was really fun. I enjoyed it. Thank you guys.
Oh, good. We're so glad, and we definitely want you to have you back for Despair,
Thank
your
you so
second book,
much.
and then for the other series with your friend. We have that's two more visits right there. So yes, so we're very happy that you were here, and it was very, very
Thank
cool
you.
to talk to you. And I still have so many questions for you, but
Thanks
that
so
is our
much.
hour. We could talk forever. So, for our listeners, if you want to dive into the world of Violet Lively, go to violetlively.com. And she has all of her links there to her books and her newsletter and all of her works on Medium, which are amazing. So, and don't forget to check out me and Keith while you're on Medium as well.
Just to reiterate your invitation to have Violet back on the show, would love to have you come back to talk about the success that you're going to have with Desire, and also to maybe as a prelude to your next release, and Please reach out to your writing partner there.
I
I'd
will.
love to have you two
I
on the
will.
show.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and, it will be fun. Please check out brewingfictionpodcast.com. We're going to have links to all of Violet's work there as well. Also, links to upcoming guests and any of the previous episodes can be found there as well. So, thank you, Violet. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Appreciate your time having you on the show. Heather, thanks very
Sure.
much again for
My pleasure.
hosting today, and we will talk again. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us today. Don't forget to swing by the podcast homepage, brewingfictionpodcast.com, for links to our awesome guest and to check out what's brewing next. Oh, and make sure to hit that subscribe button on your podcast player so you'll know when the next episode drops. We'll catch you later. Cheers.